Welcome to Platinum Hunters Extra, and for this episode, as we always do after every 25 trophy guides that we put, we got another tier list video. We're adding the next 25 to the list. That's already pretty big. This tier list is looking pretty beefy, if I do say so myself, but now we have to add the new bunch, the new crop to this, and I said I was going to do a little bit more difficult games, and I think I relatively accomplished that, and we'll see where all of these games land if you haven't watched the videos already. But if you want to start from the very beginning of this tier list and watch all the episodes, I have a playlist in the description and in the card. This is getting long enough that it requires its own playlist, so you can check out all 3 videos in that order if you like, or you can just come here and watch this one. Okay, let's get started with our first one. We celebrated 1,000 subscribers by playing this game, Infamous, which we put in the challenging tier, and I think this one, yeah, I think it'll sit at the bottom for now. I know it won't stay there, but I do think it will sit there. And what you gotta know about this game is that there is a hard mode playthrough, which is actually pretty tough. I must admit, doing it again, going back to it, I remember again how tough this is. And then the other thing you gotta remember is collecting 350 something flash shards. I think it's like 350 something. And there is no in-game tracking in this game. Sucker Punch wouldn't put in-game shard and collectible tracking until Infamous 2, so that makes this one a little bit more of a difficult experience when it comes to tracking it down, because you're gonna have to use a map, and that sucks. And the rest is really down to the upgrading your powers and completing the stunt list, which can be a little bit tricky. So I think challenging is the right place for this one, but it's at the bottom now. I know it won't stay there because we have some other games that will be going into the list. Next one is Ape Escape, and I was thrilled when they decided to put this game back on the store and I could play it and get trophies. I was so happy. Thank you Sony for doing that. But when it comes to this trophy list, I'm gonna have to put it on the bottom of the cakewalk tier for now. Oops, that's not the bottom. Where'd Spyro go? There we go. Okay, now it's on the bottom. So this game requires you to catch about 100 monkeys. Pretty easy considering there's like 200 something of them. Beat the game and then just play every minigame. That's it. Pretty easy, and you just have to get the last gadget by beating Spectre, which you can mainline through it if you want to. You don't have to go and collect all the monkeys. So you can get the punching glove, and then that'll be your last trophy you'll get, honestly. This was a very easy list to complete, and I wish it was harder, but that's what ended up happening. That's what it is. Now we got Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, another challenging game that I think is kind of borderline between challenging and moderate. There are ways to mitigate that money grind in a couple of different ways, whether you have a friend who can help you or whether you use save scumming to get the money. And then most of the rest of the challenge comes from the chaos mode that you get at the end of the game, which is like those trials that you have to beat, and you have to get to chaos level 20. That's where a lot of the challenge comes from. Other than that, it's pretty breezy when it comes to completing the rest of this experience. There's not too many things that will stand in your way other than that chaos mode level 20 play. So I am gonna place it on the bottom of the challenging tier, and I think that's where it's gonna sit. Super Perils of Baking. This one is a moderate tier game. I am crap at 2D platformers. I'm just not good at them. So I played the PS4 list, which is the easiest list out of the two, because if I went to the PS5 version of the game and played that, this would be a whole different story. I think this game I would be putting in either the hardened or the expert tier. when it comes to that. But I decided to play the easier PS4 version, and it sits in the moderate difficulty. Where I'm going to slot it, I mean, they did make it much easier. You don't have to get 100% of everything for it. I think I'm gonna put it over God of War. It's gonna sit right under Sackboy: A Big Adventure, but in front of God of War. And basically what you need to know about this: beat the game, then beat the deathless runs, beat the time trials. There are time trials in this that can be pretty tricky. And there are some extra levels to beat, some boss challenges, and some extra things. The trophy list is very good, and I put it in my my list of best platinum runs when I did that video at the end of December. It's a very good game, and I encourage you guys to check it out. And speaking of a game that I put as my best trophy runs of 2022, this one took the #1 spot. It's Stray, and I really loved doing this trophy run. It's very good, and I'm gonna have to put it higher up this tier, even though it is in the casual tier. I'm gonna put it just under Infamous Second Son. What you need to know about this is there is collectible trophies that you have to grab. There is a speed run, a beat it under 2-hour speed run, which is very doable. When I beat it, I was 140 or 145, so it is doable. I wasn't perfect when I did that speed run, and there's a couple other trophies to grab in the process. I think this Platinum is a wonderful one to go for, especially if you want a little bit of a challenge, but not too much of a challenge that you won't complete the Platinum run. Going back to the PS Classics, there's gonna be quite a few of them in this because I love those old games. PS1 is one of my favorite consoles of all time, and this is a game that I never played back in the day. It's Hot Shots Golf. This is the only Hot Shots Golf game made by Camelot, which you'll know from games like Golden Sun and Mario Golf, which they made after this. So this one was a bit of a pain for certain things, not too bad overall. It's in the moderate tier, and I'm going to place it under Cyberpunk 2077. This game is definitely not as long as Cyberpunk 2077, which really pushes that game up the chart a little bit. This game is hard because of two trophies, essentially. You need to get a hole-in-one, which can be tricky, even with the rewind feature, and an albatross. The albatross is hard until you find out that there is a cheese for it. That makes it a lot easier, and then it just comes down to leveling up to unlock all the courses and unlocking all the characters. Pretty straightforward run, and I think it sits right here in this spot in the tier. This is a trophy run that I've always wanted to finish. The Last of Us Remastered is the hardest version released of this game. It has always been something that has eluded me, and I was happy to go back and get this one. What makes this game so difficult to platinum is that you have to play it on survivor mode, which is not the hardest difficulty that they've added to it, but it is significantly difficult, and you need to do a survivor plus run, which means you need to play this more than one time to grind out the rest of the XP and stuff that I needed to play this game 3 times to get everything, including all the weapon upgrades and stuff like that. And then on top of that, there's factions mode, which is a very, very big grind because you have to do 2 journeys, which means that you have to play both factions in multiplayer. There's a whole cacophony of information that you can find in the guide if you're really, really up for it, including ways you can skip days and ways you can get the factions mode done faster. Check that out if you're interested. But otherwise, what you need to know for the purposes of this video is I'm putting it at the very top of this freaking tier. Arguably, this could be bumped up a tier in Harden, but when I made the video, I decided challenging is where it's going to be. so I'm going to put it at the top. Destroy All Humans Remake is next. I think this would have been a pretty casual kind of trophy run if it wasn't for those damn challenges, which ended up being pretty tough. Yes, those challenges that you have to get 3 stars on and ace them, some of them are pretty tough, and it did bump it up a tier for me, and I think I'm gonna put it up here. Yep, I'm gonna put it under Hot Shots Golf, above Skylanders. Yeah, those aces are no joke. They're pretty tough to do. Otherwise, the rest of the run is pretty easy. You only need 1 collectible, just 1 collectible, which is amazing. You just need to grab 1 of the DNA thingies. And the rest is completing the story and upgrading powers. It's a very fun game. I love how sandboxy it is. It's just those challenges are going to give you a challenge if you really want the plat. We got Infamous 2 now, which is unfortunately our final Infamous game that we will be covering because we've done them all top to bottom. All of them are done. And this one I'm going to put up the tier. Yeah, let's put it here. So I'm putting it under Super Perils of Baking, above God of War. And this one is much easier than this one, than the first game, because you can track the collectibles in game, so you don't need a guide and you don't need a map. It doesn't get convoluted to do this stuff. The stunt lists are integrated into the powers, so it's a lot easier to do all that. And really, you just have to worry about beating this game on hard mode, which is not as hard as the first game. It will give you a little bit of a challenge, but definitely not as punishing as the first game. So Infamous 2 is pretty breezy compared to the first one. Still harder than stuff like First Light or Second Son. I still think it's more difficult than those ones. But this is pretty doable and sits here in the moderate tier. Damn, this tier list is getting too big. Too big, I can't even see it all on one screen. But here we go. Our next one is Little Nightmares 2. Now, Little Nightmares 1 does not have a platinum. That would be in the New Game Plus tier list when we get to that. This one is much, much easier than the first one to complete that one 100%. This one doesn't have a no death speed run to worry about. All you got to do is complete the story, have a collectible guide to make sure you find all the collectibles, and then there is 1 trophy you have to do post game. Pretty easy, and I'm going to put this one, let's see, definitely tougher than Year of the Dragon, Astro's Playroom, Spyro. I'm gonna put it here. So I'm gonna put it under Astro's Playroom, above Spyro Year of the Dragon. Now we got Batman Arkham Knight. And arguably this is probably one of the easier ones of the Arkham series. When you take a look at the other 3, they're pretty friggin' hard to complete and do everything. This one gives you a little bit of leeway when it comes to the AR challenges, especially since they added a bunch of them over time, so you don't have to get 100% 3 stars of all the AR challenges. You can pick and choose which ones you want. There's still a plethora of collectibles, but not as much as Arkham City, and even beating it on Nightmare difficulty is not that bad. But all of these things do culminate and do bump it up into the hardened tier, which I'm gonna put in front of Hades, and I am going to put it in front of Little Big Planet 2. Not in front of Crash 2, but that's where it's going to sit. Arkham Knight is a good one to go and get the platinum if you're looking for the easiest Arkham game to have a platinum. I'm not sure why I have it here twice. I think it's because I wanted to do the PS3 and remastered version separately, because you can still go back and get the PS3 version of Uncharted Drake's Fortune. It's not blocked off by any online nonsense. So I think we're going to do that. So I'm going to put both of them in the list. And just know that the PS3 version is ahead. That one, you do need to play the game twice over, because you need to unlock crushing mode by playing hard mode. So it is more difficult than just playing the remastered version, which you have crushing mode unlocked from the very start. So what you need to do is complete crushing mode, get all the treasures, a lot of stuff that we've seen before in Uncharted games, nothing really crazy. But there are a few speedrun trophies to worry about in the remastered version. They are not that hard, especially considering that one of them is like 5 minutes long. I think I completed the one with the skidoo. I completed that thing crazy fast. If you just follow a guide, these chapter speedruns are incredibly easy. Tunic is a game that I'm pretty conflicted of where I've placed it. I did give it the cakewalk tier, 2 out of 10, but I'm gonna put it at the very top of the tier. It could be in the casual tier. Some people are yelling at their screens, why is this so low on the tier list? Well, it's because you can play the game with no fail mode and unlimited stamina, which makes this game a complete joke. You can't even die. And in a Souls-like kind of game like this, that just makes this thing a whole joke. And then there are guides out there that will show you how to cheese the game and beat this game incredibly fast. So it comes down to having a really good guide, especially to find all the secrets, and putting on no fail mode and stamina mode. You don't have to play the game like that. You can just play it as the developers really intended you to play, just getting good, beating these hard enemies, and finding these secrets on your own. It's up to you how much you want to indulge with the extra stuff that you can do with it. But when it comes to getting the plat, because of those things, I put it in this tier in Cakewalk, and that's really it. That's where it's gonna be. TMNT, the Cowabunga collection. And for this one, I don't think they've patched out that thing where you can just go into watch mode, make a save, and then start the game, and you will just end up in the spot where you saved. So literally you just put it like right before the watch mode play is about to kill the last boss, and then you load up that save, and there you go. You can beat most of the games like that very easily, except for 2. So there's 2 other games that you'll have to do legit. I give you the strategies, quote unquote legit, I guess. I give you the strategies on how to do that in the guide. So the trophy run is essentially just beat all of the games to the credits, and that gives you the platinum trophy. So for this one, because of all the cheeses, I'm going to put it... I might even put it on the bottom of it, to be honest. There are some hard parts in the run, but I think I'm going to put it on the bottom of the casualty. Here we go. God of War Ragnarok. And I am going to put it beside God of War. I think it is easier. Some people say this one is harder than God of War Original. I tend to think it's easier. I found the Berserker fights to be a lot easier this time than fighting all of the Valkyries. And even though there is more stuff to do in Ragnarok and a lot more enemies to fight, I don't know, I just found it all a lot easier for some reason. So I will put it behind God of War, but they're pretty well the same thing. You're going to end up doing a ton of side quests, getting a bunch of collectibles, beating a bunch of hard endgame bosses, and that is the Berserks plus a couple of other ones that I don't want to spoil. And pretty similar run to God of War, honestly. You beat that one, you really know what you're in for God of War Ragnarok. Now we have a game called Wavetale. This was a code provided to me, the first I've ever had on the site, so I thank Thunderful Games for providing me that code and the chance to cover it. It's a very easy game to platinum. After you've done the story, you've cleared, I think, 9 out of the 16 or 15 trophies that is in the run. And then there are 3 or 4 like timed trials that aren't even that difficult, to be honest. They're not really that crazy. And then you just gotta unlock a bunch of cosmetics from the shop, which you can do with all the in-game currency that you've been collecting while you're playing the story. Very easy trophy run to beat. I'm gonna put it above Little Nightmares, yeah, that's where this game's gonna sit. We've covered the reboot version of Ratchet and Clank that came out on the PS4, but now it's time to add the original PS2 version of the game to the list, and I think I'm going to put it, yeah, definitely more difficult than all these games here. More difficult than Borderlands 3? I think it's going to sit here. So it's going to sit below Borderlands 3 and above Nickelodeon Kart Racers. So with this one, there's a bunch of skill points to clear, which end up being a lot of the trophies that you end up going for. You do need to get all the gold weapons, which does take quite a bit of money to get, and you have to get a certain amount of bolts, and you have to hold it at one time, so you can't spend a lot of bolts while you're playing the game. There is ways you can get this money quicker in this game, thankfully. You don't have to grind out 2 to 3 playthroughs of the game, with the multiplier in the second and third playthrough hopefully helping you. So there are some certain things that make this one go a little bit down the tier list, but there are some things that make it a little more difficult than usual. So I think where it's sitting right now, perfect spot for it. And now we can cover the PS5 version of the Last of Us Part 1. This is the remake, not the remaster. If you listen to what I was saying about the remaster version and you want nothing to do with that version and that platinum run, play this one instead. It's much easier. It goes from being one of the games in the challenging tier to being in the cakewalk tier. And I'm going to put this one above Spongebob Battle for Bikini Bottom, but below Overcooked All You Can Eat. This game comes down to playing this game on any difficulty you like, collecting all the collectibles that you need, and basically you have to do this for the main campaign and the Left Behind DLC. You need to complete both. There's a couple of chapter specific trophies, but nothing we haven't seen before in some other lists already. So overall, this is much easier of a plat to get if you want just one Last of Us Part 1 plat. Now we have Pinball Heroes, which is the first PSP game with trophies. I'm very happy they have decided to put PSP games in PS Plus Premium and give them trophy support. This is excellent. I hope to cover plenty more of these, especially with certain games that I'm hoping come out, like Daxter, Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, or even Jak the Lost Frontier. I hope we see a lot of PSP games essentially come. Pursuit Force is another one I would love to see as well. But in terms of this one, because of the rewind feature being a part of these PS1 and PSP classics, I really can't put this one that high up the list. In fact, I'm putting it in the narrative list. It'll take you an hour to 2 hours to play it, and that's even if you're not really abusing the rewind feature to beat all these pinball tables. But you can use that feature to brute force your way easily into getting the scores on each table. The high score is what you need. So I'm going to put it in the narrative tier at the top of the tier. We have to add more games eventually there anyways. We got Hot Shots Golf 2, which is the game I played when I was small. I played this one instead of the first one, and I'm going to put it right in front of the first one simply because of the fact that for the Albatross trophy, you cannot cheese it this time. This took me hours and hours and hours to freaking get this thing perfect. It was so grindy for that stupid Albatross trophy. But in this one, you don't have to do the grinding for stages. You just got to unlock the characters, thankfully, which is better than grinding it out to get all the stages, which I kind of find like an unnecessary grind add to the game. But it's just that Albatross trophy and maybe the hole-in-one trophy that are going to give you a ton of problems, and that's why I'm putting it above the first one. Now we got Star Wars Jedi. Fallen Order. I'm very, very excited for the sequel, which is coming very soon, later this month. So be sure to look out for that guide when I make it. But if you haven't played this game, check out this guide for this one. And this one I'm going to put above Burnout Paradise, below Guardians of the Galaxy. For this, very simple, especially if you played God of War. Beat the game on any difficulty you like. Collect all the collectibles. There are a ton of them to collect, and a bunch that you sometimes will need a collectible guide for, because some of these can be pretty annoying, but otherwise pretty standard if you've played God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, or even Spider-Man. Pretty similar experience in my opinion. Oh boy, here comes my game of the year, boys. Spongebob the Cosmic Shake was such a good game. It was such a good, faithful, funny platformer game. Perfect sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom, and I think it's much more difficult than Bikini Bottom, but not by too much, just enough to jump it up a tier. And I'm gonna put this one... I'm gonna put it above It Takes Two. I think that's a good spot for it, because while it is very similar to Battle for Bikini Bottom, where you need to collect a whole bunch of things, in this case there's more than Battle for Bikini Bottom to collect. The thing that differentiates it is it has boss challenges, and they're very fun, but some of them are a bit difficult. So there's a couple that you're gonna have to do a few tries for to beat it, and they're gonna give you a little bit of a challenge. Not a crazy amount of challenge, but good enough to put it into the casual tier, where it sits now. Okay, here we go. Call of Duty World at War. Put it... Oop, not there. Put it at the top of the crushing tier. I think it's harder than Crash Team Racing. This is the hardest thing we have covered on the channel so far. This freaking game, my lord. Beating this game on veteran mode is a pain in the ass, and I think they realized it, and when games came out after it, they weren't as difficult as this veteran mode, especially when you go through runs of like Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, even Black Ops, which is the direct sequel to this game. Those veteran mode runs weren't as difficult as this one. And you add into the mix some very difficult chapter trophies to get, like what's it called, Sum of All Zeros, which is very, very difficult, and you will have to start the chapter from the beginning every time you fail it. There's iconic ones like shooting General Amsel with the pistol, which can be pretty tricky. You're gonna have to keep trying for that one. Or there's other stuff in it like the Professional, where you gotta kill all of General Amsel's men without reloading. You gotta be pretty precise for that one. It's a very iconic run, and that's why I ended up covering it on the channel, especially because it took me so long to get it. And you can still get it because the online trophies, as long as you have some buddies to help you out because no one's playing this game, you can still do those and get the platinum trophy. I don't think it belongs in the Nightmare tier. I think that would be too much for people to believe, but I do believe it is in the crushing tier, and it is definitely the hardest game we have covered on the channel so far. 2 more to go. I hope you guys are enjoying the video. I love making these. I hope you guys enjoy hearing my thoughts on all these games. Let's see, we got, I was about to say Crash Bandicoot. Jak and Daxter, that's the right names for these guys. And I'm gonna put them just above Sly Cooper. I think it is more difficult a game to complete than Sly Cooper, even though I know this game off the back of my hand. Some other people might not know it quite as well. And it's a collectathon, so you have to collect all the precursor orbs, all the power cells. You have to collect all of the, what's it called? The scout flies, which give you power cells, And then there's a whole bunch of story trophies that you'll get along the way in terms of collecting all the power cells, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. And it's a very fun game. I love this game. It's great. It's my favorite in the series personally, but I know people's favorites is Jak 2, and I can't wait to cover that game on the channel as well. And then lastly, we have Tchia, which is the newest game on the PlayStation Plus. They gave it to you for free in the extra tier. Thank you guys for making this video so successful. It's really doing well for me. Thank you guys for checking it out, and I hope it is helping you getting the plat. When it comes to it, I think this one... Yep. I think it's going to be under Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This game comes down to essentially collecting 100% of the journal, which is a ton of collectibles. A ton. Most of my experience for this, out of my 20, I think I did 22 hours to complete this. I would say like 3/4 of it was just going for collectibles. The rest was story stuff. So beat the story, get all the collectibles, fill the journal to the max, including those pesky animals that a lot of people are having trouble, and they're letting me know down in the comments section. I got guides in that video if you need it to help you find everything, and the easiest way is to find them too, because you can spend a lot of time just running back and forth in the map if you don't have a clear idea of how to collect these things and in what order. But that's our video. That's our 25. We've made this list even beefier than before. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comment section where you think some of these games should be rearranged. I definitely think there's going to be some games where you might not agree with my choices. Let me know down in the comment section where you think they would go in the tiers. I always welcome people to tell me, and I want to hear what your thinking is. That's the part that interests me the most. I hope all your trophy hunting expeditions go incredibly well, and peace out.